Welcome to Mr. Cynical.
Hello and welcome to Mystical Cynical. My name is Darren.
Hey, I'm Jamie.
We are recording in a different location today. Can you hear it in our bodies and our voices?
Yeah, it does feel strange and great. It feels nice to be in a new space, especially since we're both coming into it with the feeling of not having done this in a while.
Yeah.
And seen each other as we were just talking about prior to the show.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. Jamie went away for a little while and I stayed right where I was. How was your trip away?
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have a few things to share from it, but
Perfect.
But no, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really good. How was your time?
I don't remember. I'm sure it was fine. So we're recording at what isn't, I'm going to blow it. Colloquially.
Yes. Very nice.
I love when your eyebrows go up and you're like, yes. What is known colloquially as, forget it, as the Wow House, which is my studio in an area of Ojai known as Miners Oaks. Nobody cares. Maybe this isn't relevant, but it's a 3-unit spot that I share with 2 other businesses who I won't say by name, but the business that's next to me, and I'm going to lower my voice a little bit right now because obviously they're right next to me, but there's a woman who works there who's really, really sweet. And I don't know her name because I'm not a type of person who knows names. Jamie would probably, if he worked out of here, he would know her whole life
I'd be working with her son by now.
Yeah, she's really sweet. And then there's a man who works kind of the business. He doesn't really work in the office, but he comes in a lot. And the foulest mouth you've ever heard in your life.
Oh, really?
Used in a way, like I'm all for swear words. Like anyone who listens to this show is aware. And anytime I listen back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I swear a lot.
Swear aware.
I'm very swear aware. But he just in the way that is level of unconsciousness that I've never heard before of, and this poor woman has to sit here and just take he's fucking guy. And I told him and he doesn't fucking come around here. He better fucking. And I'm like, and I get to the point where I get upset at it for her and for me and just what I do, I'd be curious to hear how you would deal with the situation. And I know that like kind of in the way that we talked about going to the beach, and if somebody's being annoying, you move, you know, what are you going to do? You're not going to change them.
Yeah.
So what I do, my passive aggressive method is I do the same thing he does, but nobody's here. I'm by myself. So I fucking told him I'll fucking hurt him. And it gets really violent. Where I'm like, I get a chance to be like, what if I was this angry? What if everyone in the world pissed me off? What if I just wanted to hurt people? Yeah. And so I let that character come out and I do it in a way that is very passive aggressive. And what I'm hoping for, which is absolutely ridiculous, for him to hear me do it and go, geez, what's that guy's problem? And then to go, wait a second, what's my problem?
Right.
Of course, that's not going to fucking happen. That's
such a funny method.
Yeah, for sure. It's so ridiculous. Great. And so it does, obviously it goes like, this is fruitless. Yeah. My blood pressure's getting up just thinking about this guy. Like what's the point here? There's no point. And so recently I had a delivery of a new printer and it was huge. I needed 2 people to lift it up, or a second person to lift it up.
You got the fucking guy?
Well, so he's at the studio and I was trying to arrange help and nobody could come, and it kills me because I have a hard time accepting help. So everything that's ever needed to be done in my life, 99% of it I've been able to do with myself, by myself, lift it, fucking wrench it, whatever. It's like, I'll get it up there. But this thing, I had to accept the fact that this is going to require a second person. And he's next door doing his thing to the sweet woman. And I'm like, all I need, it's literally like 5 seconds. Just lift it up, get it onto this thing and we're done. But I thought, God, I've kind of made fun of this man. I've done this, whatever I've done to him, to now be like, hey, would you mind giving me help? And so I'm checking the mailbox, just kind of killing time, waiting for help to show up. And he leaves the store and he comes out and he sees the printer out on the thing. And he's like, oh, you got a new toy there. And I'm immediately like, I didn't hear what he said. And I go, excuse me? Yeah. Like immediately defensive.
Oh my God.
And he goes, did you get a new toy? And I go, yeah, a new printer. And he's like, man, that thing's great. And he's being like really, really sweet to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's fun. And then he gets in his truck and leaves. And I go, could have just been like, hey man, can I get a hand?
Right.
So anyway, that's just, you want
to see my new toy up close? You want to throw out your back looking at my new toy?
God, it's so crazy because there's nothing you can do about that. Like, what do you do about that guy? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, what I worried about earlier when I heard you is it made me think of this. It's Anthony Hopkins, one of his acting methods or whatever, when he embodies a character, he says that he has to be really careful because the character that you embody, and if you get too deep into it, especially like a Daniel Day-Lewis or something, that there's ramifications within your body of you becoming these people. You have to watch out for the shadow sort of world to not take hold and not come and become a piece of you. And so when I thought about you sort of doing the acting role of like, okay, well, I'm going to mimic this guy, and you're having to embody that sort of negativity spiritually, I suppose, like, or just on a level of like the unseen, I would say more. I worry about the long-term ramifications of you having that kind of negativity in your body, even if it's contrived.
Of course. Yeah, no, I completely think that that's the case. And if there was another unit on the other side, then I would be the guy next to me would be like, geez, what's wrong with that guy? And it just ripples ad infinitum down through the universe. But I remember this time in high school, and I haven't thought about this in so long, but I had a class I was in, and a friend who was in the class with me, and she showed up one day, and for whatever reason, I just thought, I'm going to act really upset and not break character, and just like not, and kind of, she's like, what's wrong? And I just was cold shouldering her. And throughout the rest of the day, I go, shit, now I am upset. So just kind of in that really simplistic way of boiling it down of just like, you can choose this mode or this mood or all these ways that you, at the end of the day, it is your choice to stay within that.
Right.
And then when if you slip too far into it, then you're not conscious of that choice anymore, and you just are.
Yeah. And I wonder, did I get this right? Did you at one point when he was like, hey, you got a new toy there, and he was kind of being nice, did you go, wait, maybe this construct that I have of this person in my mind is not exactly the way it is, even if they curse a lot?
Yeah. Well, it's also just like, he obviously, the reason he curses a lot and swears a lot is he's got things in his life that he's not happy with, that he's not fulfilled with, that like no one is just angry and mean for no reason. And so to have any level of compassion and just be like, and that's, I think, where the choice comes in of just like, well, I don't want to have a relationship with this man, but it doesn't mean I can't feel some compassion or love for him and say, man, it must be really tough to all day just be so fucking rageful. Yeah. And so really it's the choice of like, and I'm going to make some bold assumptions here. Maybe his political affiliations might not align with mine. Right. Not that I have any. Yeah. They have a flag that they hang out in front that is red, white, and blue. And when I see it, it makes me feel a certain way. It's not pride or patriotism. Right. And so it's just these things that add up to being like, well, I'm not going to be friends with this person, but there's no reason that I have to hold anything against him because I don't know what his story is. I don't know what his beginnings are, what brings him to that mood every day.
It's a difficult thing with the flag. Yeah, it really is. And from what I understand, the flag that so many people wave patriotically, and it's been a long time since I've been in school, but I heard this recently that, that flag was the moving away from the Confederate flag. It represents like a union. Right. It represents the unification of the country around ideas that the Confederate flag doesn't represent. Yeah. And so now co-opting the American flag to sort of, to boast your ideals around racism or, or whatever. Like,
there's a little irony and
it's like, don't you know you're waving the flag that
it's
won.
my flag.
Yeah.
You took my flag. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so the flag was so prominent throughout the last 4 years, and, I'd see, trucks with a huge flagpole coming out the back, just proudly waving this flag that I had, to be honest, I had like a huge
Boner for?
No, oh, that needed a sound effect.
I don't have any boner ones.
No, the fart one. I was thinking. There we go. No, I just had I had a mixed feeling with the flag, and it was, I think I have for a long time, because when I was young, my dad took me to see JFK, the Oliver Stone film, and I don't think I've been the same since.
Wow.
I really think that it was a huge rupture in, and people get it in different ways of like everything that you see in this world isn't the way that it is. Mm-hmm. And that movie was introducing the idea that a president that is so highly revered was assassinated, but by more than one person. Mm-hmm. I mean, the movie, implies that. And I think there's been a lot of scientific research on that death and how the bullet entries and all that stuff, to where, it's a conspiracy theory, and it's a very popular one, but it's also like, it's one of the ones that turned out to be true. Or at least it hasn't been, recognized by any government official. But anyway, that rupture.
I just love where this podcast goes. Sitting down on a couch with you and be like, no idea.
Boom. Yeah, exactly. This is not on the notes. Uh-huh. But then, seeing that, I think that I began having a more difficult relationship with the flag. And then also you're in your teens, and that's when I saw that film, and like, standing up and doing the Pledge of Allegiance at school.
Yeah, I refused that and I got in trouble.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
See, and that says a lot actually about you, that you were able to refuse it at such a young age and have the space you felt like to have your own, which is actually your right as an American mm-hmm. to do that. Mm-hmm. Yet you'd be called, so like at that age or whenever, you'd be called unpatriotic or by a bunch of people who don't know what patriotism is.
Yeah, for sure.
But so anyway, so that I've had this rupture with the flag, and then my mother's always collected these really old flags. Mm-hmm. She's got some really badass ones, like the ones with the circle stars, mm-hmm. and they're super old, and I think they're really cool. And so the flag has always been around my life, but I've had this relationship with it of representing the time that we abolished slavery. Yeah. And that this country started to, and it desperately still needs healing around this issue, but started to heal, at least from moving away from that ideology. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's going on. And it's kind of like not cool to like government or something. It's not cool to, as you're growing up. I mean, unless you're a soldier or, and by all means.
Or a good little boy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, it represents authority, and it represents something of control over you. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Exactly. So that's the thing in the rebellion.
And the pledge of allegiance, just like we say that enough, or take it as each word, you're pledging your allegiance. Like, and we had to do that every morning. I thought it was so fucking ridiculous. And
and where's the separation of state and church in that? Because you say God,
sure. Jesus,
in school.
Oh, Jesus.
And there he is.
There he is now.
He's been popping up all over the place lately. Popping up, from the whole rock thing where he came back from the dead that we just celebrated. It's popping up everywhere.
The only way I knew it was Easter is because I was out here at the studio, and like people were walking down the street well dressed. Like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, of course. So you would have probably known about it if I was in town, because I might have just mentioned it over the fence or something.
Right.
We're doing this.
Hiding Easter eggs.
We're doing this crystal ritual to commemorate zombie Jesus. So anyway, the flag though, it's been this contentious relationship I've had with it. And yet I understand it more as I have become in my 30s, having children and sort of just learning more about the world. And I'm wanting to love it. Mm-hmm. But then the last 4 years made it really difficult because it represented people who were yelling at us. Yeah. Or just like wanted to hurt us.
Well, because there's no unity within a flag. I mean, a flag is taken to a pretty big task to represent the whole union of something. Yeah. Especially in America, where there is no whole union. Right. It's division. And so you need to have your own specific version of the American flag that represents your ideals and your vision of America, because Jamie's pointing to my very I don't know what this is. It's a carpet hanging on the wall of one of my designs.
You'll have to go on YouTube to watch the video, but you can see I'm touching it. This would be my flag right here. This is really it.
No, and I feel I get upset at the fact that I don't have a flag to represent me, because I love flags. I love the idea of design being distilled into something really simple and striking. And for it to be like, I look at those colors, that scheme, that layout, and anytime something gets turned into like workout pants, you're like, guy we've seen around town with his American flag.
I'm still not sure where he falls.
Yeah, well, regardless, it's even if he's being ironic, it's still like, well, I feel even less pride or attachment to that flag at this point if it's turned into your fucking parachute pants.
But we're in a very interesting time because we've watched the flag become a version of the Confederate flag, at least in the last 4 years.
For sure.
And seeing it, it's like, I want this flag to represent me, but you're doing it as a scare tactic.
Right.
When you're doing it out of your truck, it's almost like, and this is what it says to me, and this is just my thing, but it's like, I have guns in my car.
Mm-hmm. Come at me, bro.
Yeah, come at me. You fucking disagree with my president, and then fucking I'll hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, when they were storming the Capitol and people, were holding that, which you've seen, throughout history, through revolution and stuff, that there's always someone's job is to carry the flag. But
that one dude who climbed the stairs and he started waving it, he's like, we got it. Like, I was like, God, I couldn't believe I was watching that. So, the shift now to Biden, I kind of wonder where the flag toting would fall. And to be honest, I haven't seen as many because to the people who the last 4 years represented them well, the flag doesn't mean that anymore because there's this new pussy in the fucking White House who's not, who wants to represent everybody and cares about everybody like a fucking
pussy.
Yeah, like a pussy. And so, so now, I mean, that was interesting. People aren't flying that flag anymore as much. And it feels like whenever I see the flag, I go, if I do see it on a truck or anywhere, I go, did this flag just come out because it now represents you?
Right.
Because I think most of the people who were waving the flag so proud in the last 4 years are not doing it as much anymore because it's just like, it's not my president.
Well, there's some that are still holding on so very tight and be like, but there's a house on the way out of town that has a flagpole, which if your house has a flagpole, not to say you shouldn't have a flagpole, but what you're deciding to hang from there is obviously a huge statement about what you believe in. And, we all have that right. And, free country.
Sure.
But, throughout the years that it happened, it was a Trump flag, and then it turned into a Blue Lives Matter flag.
Oh, right.
And then it was a Don't Tread on Me flag. This dude's got a fucking garage full of flags. And then
the Palmia one, maybe.
Yeah, that one was up there. And then eventually now it was towards the end of the election, it was a Trump flag, and now it's back just to a plain old American flag. Because it's just like, well, I still want to show my, patriotism and everything. But to concede, to think of the people that had to finally concede and take their flags down and be like, okay, I think this might be moving on. But
I've gotten to work with some veterans, young veterans. I mean, like people who signed up early and got out in their, in their 30s, early 30s, people with severe PTSD. And I just have so much love for these people because they're, and I want to help them as much as I can, really, because they've had, 100% of them had difficult upbringings, were treated like shit, only to go find a way to be treated like shit for a living, and they take the compassion out of you. You can't have compassion being a soldier, from what I understand, because it doesn't allow you to do your job correctly. Sure. And so being in a block of time that's highly developmental, from like 18 to 30 or whatever, where like the loose wires and the loose connections of your childhood are now looking to plug into things. And what you plug into usually in your 20s and 30s, especially in your 20s, has long-term ramifications.
Sure.
And so I work with these folks and there's just hurt children. They're just hurt children, and they were looking to belong to something. Mm-hmm. Much like anything, like all of us, we're all looking to belong to something because feeling on our own, we're just not enough or something, you know? And it's been the most heartbreaking tales because now they have a head full of violence and atrocities that were committed in the name of the flag, you know, in the name of these lines that have been drawn. I mean, there's that Sister Cody thing that Lacey just ordered. It's a print and it says, you don't have to color within the lines because the lines were never there to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And I looked at that this morning after meditation and it was like so powerful to think about that. It's something I've thought about for a long time, these invisible lines that we all have. And so bringing people back from that, I mean, certainly psychedelics are making a dent.
Well, yeah, and it seems interesting to talk about the kind of the lacking in compassion or the way that they arrange it so you don't.
Right.
And then this idea of psychedelic therapy being hugely effective for
Right.
veterans and people suffering from PTSD from those situations and getting a chance to finally experience compassion in a huge way. Yeah, I think there's no accident there.
No, not at all. And yeah, I mean, you have to become a hippie after after being a soldier. It's ironic, and I think that's the difficult part for people. And of course, I'm being, you know, I'm joking. It's not, psychedelics need to get an individuation away from the hippie movement. I mean, it's certainly the counterculture. I'm grateful to it. Probably most of what I'm wearing is somehow a throw forward,
Yeah.
you know, to that time. But it was a bunch of people taking drugs who were severely traumatized by the dark ages of the 50s and all the years beyond, and then just turning insane on these drugs and not knowing how to integrate it into their lives. And that's why we got you're talking about the boomers or the yuppies or whatever. It's like just a new identification. It was like success. Okay, well, the hippie thing's burned out and like, let's all get jobs. And you know, Apple was created and some good things, but it's hard to talk about Apple completely in a positive light, knowing everything that we know, even though I use we're recording this thing on a laptop. I got my iPhone here. We all live with some level of contradiction, but the flag, you know, for me, I want it to mean something again to me. I have some feeling around it that I want to look at it and go, you know, and knowing what I know about constructs and all this stuff and identities and all the invisible entities that seem to be the substance of our lives, that we make the substance of our lives. Knowing what I know about all that, I still have this thing to want to reclaim the flag because I feel like the way that it was founded and the ideas that were started here, there's some beauty, some severe beauty, some fierce beauty in it. And it'd be nice to have it, but to have my relationship change with it, which means I'm having a relationship change with myself.
Well, you have to, I think the idea that's tough is that you have to share it with everybody else, that you have to share it with the guy next door. Right. And so like thinking about countries that there is kind of a unified patriotism and thinking like we spent a month in Denmark and found it to be just extraordinary. And there's a level of course there's diversity in thought in there, but for the most part, there's a common agreement as to how the government's run. It's democratic socialism where we went on a walking tour and the guy put it in a way that just was so striking to me. He says I get like a little bit emotional about it. Our government or our powers that be ensure that nobody in our society falls too far through the cracks.
Right.
And just thinking about how we are just not that at all. And so fuck that dude down the street, fuck that guy next door. I got mine, I got my people, I got my tribe within this. And it's also, you know, I've said it a million times. This country's too big. Yeah. It's too big. And I don't know what that means, whatever. Chop it up. But thinking about somewhere like Denmark's like the size of fucking Rhode Island. Of course, you can have a bit more unification there and looking at the flag and be prideful of it because you're like, God, this country takes care of us. And as a whole, we are like the sustainable culture and, you know, all that stuff. And that comes with its own whole situations around like nationalism and, you know.
No, I really want to be clear that
Fuck America. Let's just be clear about that.
No, but what I'm about to say is, I have a difficulty around hearing that this is like, we're always boasting that this is the greatest country in the world. Mm-hmm. Both sides are saying it, all different sides that's the pitch when trying to get a vote or whatever.
Yep.
Greatest country in the world. Why can't we have this? Why can't this, be done? And, there's been, and I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be an American and I'm really grateful to have the life that I have and to be born in this time. And I'm really grateful to spread, the Dharma of Jamie Carpenter, in this country. And especially I really love, and I'm one of those motherfuckers who loves California. Like I really do think that this place is like, it's its own individual place, almost like Texas is on another side of it, excluding Austin from that, but like Texas seems like it's its own country.
Yep.
And California has its own government. It's a lot of the things that go on widespread in the country don't seem to affect California's ideas.
I only just found out there was a pandemic like a couple of days ago.
Way to go, California. But I'm grateful to be here. And at the same time, and this comes down to that thing that I talk about often of like, hey, you can be in gratitude and still go, there's room for improvement.
Sure.
You don't have to just be like, thwarting yourself through life, being, grateful. I just think that the contrived gratitude is disillusionment, and it's like you're muscling yourself with gratitude through a situation. I don't think that's the intended.
But isn't it just to go back to the Sister Cody thing, which anyone who's not familiar, look up at Sister Cody on Instagram. Yeah. I love him. I drew a picture of him because he just moved me so much. He's just this amazing, glowing, beaming light of positivity and joy. And he's become hugely successful in a very short amount of time, and he deserves all of the success. Yeah, he's an amazing person. But just that idea of these lines, that the lines never existed. And so the lines of the United States, the lines of California, it's that we agree to those terms. Then we say, and it's maybe a little bit naive to just say like, well, no borders, no countries in this world, but there is that case. And so like the fact that you were born within these made up imaginary borders, then you have to be like, well, I'm an American. Like you never had any say or choice in the matter. And it's love it or leave it type thing. And so, it's unfortunate that we have to live within the confines and the constructs of something someone else created. Yeah, it is. And I heard, just to talk about Sister Cody for a second, I didn't know the background on how he became, how we know about him now and what the journey's been like. And it's very similar to mine. It's crazy. It's even the same year, 2013, he had this break, and he had been working with children in a psychiatric hospital and just working with severe trauma. And he ended up having a nervous breakdown that lasted like 5 years, where he could barely drive. He forgot, he like lost his memory about how the world works, and was really in it. And at times having to pull over on the side of the road and go and have somebody pick him up because he forgot how to drive. And then I don't know what the catalyst was for change, but I know that he got help and he started being healthy to his body. And we have a very similar story. And so I didn't even know that. And this also touches into that thing where vibrationally, like somebody's output can grab you and you don't know their backstory, but you feel some connection to what they're doing or their art or who they are. You hear them speak, there's some quality, and then you do a deep dive, and there's so much that you have in common. Mm-hmm. And I think that happens more and more than we realize it. Like why we relate to a song or something that we see, or even a person just walking, like can have a vibration that you can feel drawn to, and you find out that there's a reason. But anyway, Sister Cody has been doing these art, and in a very short amount of time has
He's gotten like, I think over 200,000 followers, I think, or something like that on Instagram. Not to say that's everything, but he has a place to showcase his art, which is this colorful drawings that are almost childlike.
It's the antithesis of the art that I create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is.
Stylistically.
Right. And for you to be into them too, and it hit you so fast, which is what I loved. Like you saw this and you're like, you saw the art in our house. You're like, who is this? And then you started watching him and you were like,
oh, it was infectious immediately. Cause I think what he represents to me is an ideal, is a mood, just a whole vibe. I'm like, you just look at his face and there's just this smile, the wrinkles from how much he smiles in his eyes. And he's gorgeous and he's so free. And I think, I mean, obviously, you know, I'd love to get to know him more personally, but seeing, at least trying to analyze like how he gets that way, where he is. And this is so kind of materialistic and broad, but he seems to live in a place where he's free. He doesn't live in some major city. He looks like he lives out in the desert. And so like this, the ideal within that aspect is the freedom to wake up in the morning, to go outside. And he talks about it all the time of like, just hearing the birds chirp and like just feeling the sun on your face. So having these, just kind of pulling away a lot of the superfluousness in life and getting a chance to like tune in to what is beautiful and what is simple and what is just real and not like wake up. And it was funny because he put up a post recently about getting back into his meditation practice after having for so long, woke up and immediately grabbing his phone. And I'm like, I relate with that. I'm sure many other people can relate with that. And so to just be like these conscious choices along the way of like, fuck the phone for a second, sit in meditation or go outside and just let the sun shine on your face for 10 minutes. Like I'm trying to find these modes of like, you should find a way to count how much time you spend on your phone and counterbalance it twofold with non-phone activities.
Absolutely.
Like,
that's a great suggestion. And he has his wife's music is incredible. I mean, she sounds like, I don't know if you know Jolie Holland. Have you ever heard her? No. And she's kind of in that Devendra, like they're all close, like Vetiver, Devendra, a few bands that are sort of, she's from
all the freaks.
Yeah. I think she's from El Paso or Austin or something, but her voice, she sounds like Billie Holiday, and doesn't look anything like Billie Holiday. And so, Sister Cody's wife has that kind of voice. It's like really old timey,
old soul.
Yes. Old soul. Exactly. Kind of voice. And I think they have a child and if you look at Sister Cody's face, if you go to these posts, you'll be like, what, if you're not open to it, you could
you'd be like, this is dumb.
Yeah,
or
look
like,
at this fucking stoner.
And I think that
like,
maybe this is not fair, but I think when you saw me connect with him, you were like, whoa, like I didn't expect that.
Totally.
Like,
Well, I mean, not only artistically, which I know that I'm not saying that you that my image of you is like somebody who only appreciates art that's sophisticated,
sure.
But that the drawings then leading to what I was really surprised about is that you had been watching him all morning at one point that next day. And you were like, how do you know if somebody's your guru? Like, it was fucking hilarious.
I said, it's when you draw a picture of him, isn't it? Yeah. And I drew a photo of him and I DM'd it to him and he said he cried seeing it. And then that like, just that, like, how are you that free? How are you so free? And of course, he's not without his struggles. And I think that that's kind of what we do with people online or anywhere. We just, we paint them with like, oh, you're free from challenges and all these things. But and the print that Lacey gave me was that like, the world's going to affect you, but it's up to you to decide how it's actually going to like affect you emotionally.
Yeah.
He put up something in his stories where he said he was driving and some like check engine light or something, these lights came on and whatever, like X amount of time ago, what it would have done to him and now it's done to him. So you're still being presented with the check engine light. How are you dealing with it now?
Right.
And even this morning, I feel like I felt that way. Like I texted Jamie or there was noise outside and we were like, maybe we'll have to record somewhere else. And then Delu was throwing up really like, late at night and just being, Delu's sick right now. And so we had to make arrangements around that. But I realized like, man, whatever X months ago, this would have fucking rocked me. And I would have been so concerned that if I had to tell you, hey, Jamie, Delu's sick and we can't do the show, that I would have immediately imposed a reaction onto you of like, you'd be pissed. And so I'm dealing with these imaginary emotions as to how you'd be reacting and how like Viana would be affected by this. And it was so just like, I don't give a fuck. Like if we don't do a show today because I have to take care of my sick kid, so be it.
Right.
Like, so,
exactly.
and in that video, he just was like, the light's on, whatever. Like, we'll get it fixed. It's just like this, that kind of like stony vibe.
Yeah. But it's like, you have to look deeper at you're either going to get it or you're not. And even if you don't get it at first, look a little deeper is what I would say with Sister Cody, because this is an authentic surrender that's happened. And that's what the difference is when you talk about being in that place. I know the only reason that I'm in that zone is because I at one point surrendered completely my identity and just opened myself up. And I'm like, I ain't shit and I'm everything. I ain't shit and I'm everything is basically my deal.
Yeah.
And I have everything in me that's in the universe, and I'm a part of it all, and I'm a part of everything that's ever been, because the substance of my being is created from all the things that were here that have been in this universe longer than I have. It's all energy moving around. And so I'm a part of everything there, but I'm also like, my ideas historically that are not inspired, that are impulse, that are firings off of the mind, have just hurt people. And they've also
kind of like the time I shot my girlfriend in the chest with a fucking BB. I think when you said firing off of impulses, it brought up some visceral memory.
Well, and there was an example of this yesterday, and I'll leave out who it was, but like somebody was saying that they were talking to another person who always gets their goat, always just bothers them with the things that they say. And it hurts because this person is like really close to them, and to watch this person always say things that seem so impulsive. And
was it Lacey talking about me?
I saw your mind working. I did. But and then like and this person who's experiencing the person, instead of getting involved with that train of thought, left it alone. And the train of thought wasn't built on anything. That the person, all these opinions that seem to hurt, the opinions that seem to hurt are just like the mind firing off all this bullshit, and it just needs to say it, and it does, and then it doesn't land anywhere, and it's like, oh look, and there's a treat. Like you move right on. So instead of getting involved with somebody who's being difficult, let's say it's a family member. Let's say you've got like you've got a family member who's always like just saying things that seem hurtful. When we get involved in that, we're basically fighting with a neurochemical con job.
Yes, right.
We're fighting with something that doesn't even represent them. That is just like, it's just the pollution of the mind that we think, is that my parent? Is that my sister or my brother? Is that my friend? Like, and then you want to go like, but I thought that you're this, and you get entangled with it. Right. And then all they can do, because they're defensive in that moment, because they're caught off guard, is just defend this pollution mind, And so if you just leave it alone, you don't have to get involved in it. You don't have to see that as who they are, and you can just see it as the firings off of the mind that have nothing to do, no root in actually who this person is, their history, their substance. It's just not, it's not something to get involved in, and we can let it go if we can. And
can we talk about the specific example of where I was really, really shitty to you when you were away? Whoa!
Saved. Yeah, we can.
And I felt so bad about that. And I just feel like it's these continued reminders of how incredible you are as a friend, and how much of a teacher you are to me, and how much like it pains me to have these like impulsive firing offs, and then just really like being able to have you accept, or accept me, or accept my apology immediately. Like I said something really cruel to you because I was feeling like within this collaborative universe that we have, it's a new thing for me. And you've pointed this out that I rarely work with other people in any capacity. And that's a conscious choice because I know that I don't do it well. I've had a difficult time with it in the past. And so you were away and we were arranging the meditation thing and I was handling the editing of it and I wanted to be done with it. I wanted to move on with my day. And you were with your family and everything. And so there just was like immediately like a logistical mismatch and it was what it was. And then I said something really shitty and I just was like, oh my God, like my ability to like go into my bag and be like, what's the worst thing I could say right now? And like, what is that? Like, what's the most poisonous thing I can say? And is that really like so poisonous for Jamie that level of poison is going to be medicine to me to be like, yeah, I did it. I made him feel shitty like that like that's kind of the realization of like, what did I get out of that?
Yeah.
And in this case, I felt shitty about it and I was able to apologize and you were able to accept my apology immediately. Well, and I was able to be like, okay, like that's fine. Like I'm not going to be, I don't know if I've referenced the guy that I poured wine onto and I needed to get the apology from him when I worked in Yosemite and I like dumped the wine on him and I was like, hey man, I'm really sorry. Hey man, I'm really sorry. Hey man, I'm really sorry. He was like, you need to stop because you're starting to piss me off. It wasn't the case with this. I said, I'm sorry. You said immediately forgiven. And to some degree, there was still a little bit was just like, you should apologize a little bit more. Do it like say one, like send him a voice memo. But and I was able to put it off. And even later that day, I was just going to kind of come back and put a bow on it and be like, hey man, I just want to say apology one more time. But I was just like, no, he said it's fine. Like, you know, to just let that go entirely.
Right. Yeah. And no, and it was good for me too, because it came, and this, you could never know this, but it came out at a time where I was dealing with that energy that you used in that moment. It's a familiar energy. I've had it with these male archetypes in my life, and it seems to be an energy that I attract, where people with this energy they do see me as somebody safe to be able to say things to, and I'm at a point now where when I responded back, I said something like, that wasn't a nice thing to say. I'm trying to help. Or something like that. Just, you know, very matter of fact, not like, God, and you do this all the time. And the whole narrative. It was just like on the spot. Okay, that hurt. And without getting into everything that I'm in right now of why it could hurt in that moment, just like, that was not a nice thing to say. I'm trying to help. And then I did that and it was good for me. It was good for me. I don't want to invite it more.
For sure.
But it was a way for me to see like how much I've grown. And there's lots of ways that I can see that. Certainly I'm somebody, I think throughout my day, I still am mystified at how wonderful my life, this life that I've created from nothing, from a lot of pain is. I'm mystified daily by it. And so it hasn't gone away and I'm walking through that, but I know that's been built on working with emotion. It hasn't been built on hard work at a business or anything like that. It's all like hard earned, working with emotion, being able to translate that to people so that it can empower them to do the same and so they can see people in a new way, and free them up, free the people who hurt them the most, like with their mind, you know.
Well, that seems like a better definition of success to me, is success in a way that we all are here. We have to get through this life. How can you be successful? It's not from money. It's from that emotional intelligence, that ability to say like, somebody just said something shitty to me. I told them it hurt. Maybe I forgive them. That's it. Like that's, you know, like, and just thinking about that scenario of like, if you, just that, like within that, it's interesting for me to recognize, like I still, at the end of the day, I still said something shitty, but I didn't feel like I needed to defend it or say, well, that's true. Like what I said was true. Like it was just like, that's the thing I'm having to make peace with myself in that, is to say like, well, I still got brought to a point where I said something shitty, but how did it play out afterwards? It didn't like carry on any longer than that moment. And we both can still sit here and love each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I was in that moment, before you even said anything, we have a level of friendship that I was going through in my mind, this is a very foreign thing. Now, we've been in foreign territory already doing a podcast and having this character show up on your Instagram feed from time to time and sharing a space of your success with mine. We've had that, but this was a whole new level because it was like within that universe. Now there's this thing where it's just Jamie putting out, like it's Jamie without Darren in this podcast, and you're essentially working to get this thing great that really is kind of with me as a focus. And I was in the complexity of that psychologically. I was trying to get into your head about what that must be like. And so when this thing came in, it only furthered the notion that there's some difficulty around this. And it's mild. I mean, I just thought like, you're not used to doing something at this level to boost somebody else's thing.
It's like, it was like work. I was like, fuck this. I don't want to do this. This is work.
And just so you know, like I have that now built into me to where like it just came very natural for me to think about what the experience was like for you and to not take it for granted.
Yeah. And you also, gave me the option of, well, just do what you want. And it was, and it's, again, and we come to this every fucking time, the text written word is way different than hearing each other's voices. Cause I'm like, you say, well, just do whatever you want. And I'm reading, well, just do whatever you want, like instead, like, well, just, do whatever's going to make you feel better in this situation. And from a place of compassion and kindness. And I do want to just reference one more thing. And it was this morning, and just these things that we get to, these opportunities that we get to have for each other, to be mirrors, to be whatever the opposite of a mirror is, a wall. And you said, what did you say? Something around like us having to come here to the studio, and I'm still in a little like, it's kind of stressful. I don't know what's going on with Delu. I don't know how this is going to resolve. Yeah. And your suggestion was very like easy, like, oh, we'll just pop over to the studio. And and I literally wrote it out and then I deleted it, but it was something so sarcastic. Like, really? Oh yeah, I'll just leave a bowl of water for Delu and lock the doors from the inside and they'll be fine. And what I was hoping to express there was like, it's not as easy as that. And so like that came from like, delete it, think about it. Like, why did you feel like you needed to respond in such a poisonous, like sarcastic, and in hopes of like, this is going to make you laugh, but it's also going to make you think, and it's going to make you realize that I'm in a pissed off, like, just putting all this burden on you to be like, just here, decipher through this whole thing, this shitty, snarky thing I was going to say.
Well, in that moment, you're freeze framing, you're solidifying a version of who I am in that moment based in the notion of what you think my life and my day has been, all the days prior. It's like, oh, he just got back from Josh. The construct. He's looking extra tan. He's wearing a new Totally Blown sweatshirt.
Yeah, for sure.
And you base it on that. You go like, I'm going to make that version of Jamie laugh. I'm going to, I'm going to test him a little bit, but it's all this solidified. And I could have been in a number of things. Sure. As I was, I mean, yesterday was a big day of a lot of...
Save it, dude. I'm the one having the tough day right now. You had it yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's amazing. And it's just like getting this opportunity to have these things and getting a chance every day to respond to something that, I hope I respond better. Or if I don't, then I respond better after the response, that this boot camp of life that you and I in particular get to experience, but also with everybody else.
Well, and I'm in it for the long haul, man. I mean, just, let me say it to you and all of you people out there, let me publicly decree that, that I'm in it for the long haul. I mean, this is not a difficult relationship for me, because what you in these moments, the feeling where I get irked or whatever and have to stand up for myself, when we work through that, it has its own goodness, but also what you bring in relation to all the other, like I said, this male sort of psyche or this archetype that I've worked with, that's difficult. You're bringing a lot of healing to that daily. Just all the time. So like I don't even know if it's safe to say that it all levels out, because I do feel Like we're in the, what would it be? In the black? And is that where you're doing good?
In the red is when you're in debt. Black's when you're good. Yeah.
Yeah. We're in the black.
Yeah.
So we're in the black as far as our relationship. You know, I don't feel like we've ever been in the red.
Right. Oh, I mean, I think it's these micro moments where there's a slight debt and then there's a very quick repayment.
Yeah,
where I think that it doesn't feel like there's ever going to be. And I think this is just in life. You're not ever stocking up wealth. Is that it feels, at least maybe just in this moment, that it feels like you're kind of on this edge of debt and even balance all the time. And that's the daily thing of these challenges, like where to not feel so bad about myself because I reacted a certain way. Cause like I could just beat myself and be like, why am I still being shitty? Why, and then feel bad about it. Be like, well, something's going to bring it up. And, maybe the next time you won't be as shitty, or maybe you'll think about it before you are shitty, but you're still thinking the shitty thought, but you don't say it. And so for me, at least, it just feels like it's in this ever constant learning where, think that there's going to be some ascension where I'm going to start fucking floating and be like, well, I rose above all that. It's just like being here is the lesson in real time all the time.
That's right. And that's what people are feeling. And they don't want, I don't know people who, if they want some Taylor Swift and if they want some sort of Taylor Swift album podcast, sort of thing. And that's not fair. Taylor's not fair. I'm sure she's great. I watched her documentary and I really appreciate her as an artist, but if they want something that's like sort of perfect and floaty, for their spirituality, that's just not this. This is
the grimy shit right here.
Well, in real time for you to be like, you don't see, I think, your importance. Like I get a lot of like the wisdom stamp or in some of these things,
you do have the beard.
Right. And the beards, that throws people off. So you're talking wisdom, about how wise you are. Yeah. So your wisdom is one who basically in real time, like you were saying, you are shedding and showing all the difficulties and the complexities of having an emotional experience and being a person who's trying to do good, who is successful and having a difficult relationship with, being successful. Mm-hmm. But then you out yourself constantly and about like your shortcomings. Mm-hmm. And that is a dharma in itself. That is just as important as talking about the solution is somebody admitting where the problem is. And you do it abundantly. It happens every show. It's a spiritual lesson in itself. And it's an immense sort of contributor to this vulnerability that people talk about on this show. Mm-hmm. You showing your faults, you being willing to talk about it in front of like people who, you're depending on some level to be able to have the life that you're having. You're showing them your imperfection and you're willing to do it and also have these kind of conversations with me and be redirected at times. That shit is so subjugated to privacy. That's why therapy isn't in front of a live studio audience,
until this show comes on.
Right.
Yeah. But right. That's a great way to put it.
It's a very spiritual thing. As far as I'm concerned, it's a deep spiritual teaching to be able to admit your faults and not just to do that, but to do it to where other people can benefit. And the list is long, man, of the reviews that they all say, like, thank God there's this show. This sounds like my head. Thank you for your vulnerability. This is a rare, precious element in the world. And it's not, it's not one or the other. It's like we're collaborating and bearing our souls completely.
Yeah.
There's very little that I omit. And, at times I do I feel like I'll rein it in a little bit more because I'm so self-disclosery.
Patreon.com/mysticalcynical is a way you can show support to the show.
Yeah. So switching for a minute. You ever done the Integratron?
No, but I saw the photos of you there and I wasn't sure, Yeah. Anyway, no.
No, you haven't done it.
No,
And
I
have you-
tell you how I don't know about it. I'll go great lengths to tell you.
Yeah. And that's what most podcasts do. They would take that and turn that into content. But, anyway.
Not us, baby.
So it's a dome out in the desert. And you should look it up. It looks like a mini observatory. And I had never been. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, Jeremy, who's also my lawyer, and just a good salt of the earth person, like such a good person. He invited us. The plan is for me to facilitate the wedding between he and his fiance at some point. And so this was like a pregame thing where he rented out the Integratron.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And you can pay a certain amount of money and get a private sound bath in there. Mm-hmm. And it was fucking amazing.
It is the most quintessential California thing. Like if you explained the Integratron to somebody back home and buffaloed it to them, it'd be like,
California. Yeah. It's literally built on top of like a convergence of like rivers. And and like, of course, well, here's going to California this into the stratosphere, but like the guy got the download from aliens.
Yes. Well, naturally, right? Of course. Right. Yeah.
But here's the thing. All of that said, as hokey or as like, oh yeah, whatever, a hippie fucking dome, you go there is a science to this that is undeniable.
I'd love to have a chance to go and deny that science.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
It's an altered state of consciousness that happens in this sound bath. It's a huge dome. Okay. Huge ceiling, all wood. The acoustics in this place are designed to where if somebody is saying something from a certain spot, everyone can hear it like as if you're whispering, you can hear it as if somebody's right in your ear.
Incredible.
So it's incredible in that way. I brought the kids. I didn't know that they were going to be able to come. He got spots for them too. And this was, besides sugar, this was their first altered state of consciousness or fever dream. And I didn't realize how heavy this experience was. I didn't know that you lay down facing a wall in a circle, like an ayahuasca ceremony, very much like that. And the women go in first and then the men, just like in an ayahuasca ceremony and, or a sweat lodge. It's the same way. And, somebody plays the singing bowls, which are these huge bowls made out of crystal that you rub with a stick. This is God. Yeah,
I'm
from
Coast,
California.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And it makes these vibrations that are cool. They're just cool to hear. If you're ever in a room with it, it's interesting. You'll probably want to play one, even if you're a devoted cynic.
But they're not just cool. I mean, they hit you in the crown chakra, the throat chakra, the nuts chakra.
Right. It does all that. Yeah. So in this dome, though, when you play them, because the acoustics, they make you lay down and face away. So you're like looking at the ceiling, laying on the ground in separated spots on cots.
Sounds like Jonestown.
Yeah, kind of. Well, and that's what Tiger was like. As soon as I got here, he's like, I kind of felt like this was probably what cults look like or something like that. But it's, it's like almost like an amusement park, for adults. For the spirit. Yeah. So, the plan was for everybody to lay on these cots, and I'm separated from the kids. It's like me and then Lacey and then the kids and I'm kind of removed from them. And this thing starts, and it's so insane, the vibrations that are happening, that like it fills your ears right to the point of what you feel like you can take. And there's all these different tones that happen. And I'm going like, and it's really relaxing, and you kind of just like sink in. And it reminded me, I got scared because I'm going, how are my kids dealing with this? They're on their own right now with their own mind, having they haven't had any explanation about this. And of course it's safe and there's kids all it's not like we're giving them drugs, but it is an altered state that happens. And, or it can happen. And for me, I was laying there and I was going, this reminds me of some of my drug experiences. And I'm going like, how are they dealing with this? And I would keep getting nervous, much like in an ayahuasca ceremony. Like, is this, what's going on? And I look over at them, and every time I look over and I'm concerned, they're like, they're just laying peacefully.
Yeah.
Just like taking it all in, not squirming, just laying there, listening to these vibrations. It's been an hour we're doing this. And it's like, holy shit, you know? And so they fucking survived that like champs. And my daughter was like, she was like, you know, at first, like I did kind of think I was like a little, you know, nervous about, or like, how long is this going to last? She's like, and then I just got completely peaceful and I just laid there and I just enjoyed it. And I had a good time. She's like, I probably won't do it again as a kid, but they had good experiences with it. And I don't know what long-term ramifications are for this kind of thing, but I do know that like the next day or so, I had to be really careful what I put in my body, because even the things that I considered that were healthy-ish, that were kind of maybe more junk food-ish, did not agree with my stomach. And that was a good, perfectly timely burp. But it was a really odd experience, and it's something you should look up, and they're booked for the next couple of months, but it's just one of these things that I recommend. So Joshua Tree, that's for sure.
For sure. Yeah. If you want to have like a California fantasy camp, I think that's probably a good one to throw on the list.
But then my mom, my stepmom, who's like so far removed from everything spiritual and floaty and all that stuff, like she was like, she heard about this and she was like, can we book this? And, you know, I think there's some level of appeal, even if you're not floaty. Even if you're not a hippie or whatever, there's just this idea of having, she learned it from the kids. She was like, oh, this sounds like something I want to do.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a novel experience. I think if anything you can find this day and age that's different from what you do, I would hope that anyone who's even closed off is going to have some draw to it and find it appealing. And especially if it's psychoactive, take, you know, if it's just like, well, we don't take anything, do we? You're like, no, just lay there and take it. It's funny because I'm thinking about my East Coast comparison to that, and maybe they have these out on the West Coast, but when we go to like fairs or carnivals or, do you know the Gravitron?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
There is something amazing about the
which is a spiritual experience in itself.
Yeah. Though I think there was that, when I was on that one, somebody puked and it's floating in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching it, waiting to see where it was going to land.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah. It's such a memory.
Yeah. So what is, you guys just kind of, do you feel like you get the Joshua Tree experience every time you're out there, or does it just kind of become a place that you go visit your mom?
The desert for me.
Oh, geez, you just affected a whole tone there.
I do feel particularly dropped in today. I don't know what's going on, but I feel very centered and not rushing. And
great.
Yeah, it's great. The desert immediately opens up vistas of creativity, and this sounds like crazy, but it's just the space. It's so open space. And I've talked about it probably before, but
I think we talked about it where there's been studies where if you have an unobstructed view of the horizon, that it elicits more room for creativity. Thinking in contrast of, not to say living in New York City can't be inspiring, but the idea of you could look at a building 15 feet away and then, you know, behind you the same way. So the idea of just opening up that space has been shown to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens to me every time. So you don't end up doing much when you're out there. You can just hang, and it just feels like different than spending a day at home.
Totally. Yeah. Because I think it's freer of the distractions that would remind you of the things that you quote unquote need to do and these obligations that come up. I mean, being near the grocery store, you're like, well, there's something I must need there. I must have to go to the grocery store and get a kombucha, which it's probably a little more relevant for most people than it is for Jamie.
You know, on my mom's street, we were talking about the Trump flags and all that stuff. And there was a place right on the corner of her street where this person was hanging the Trump flag.
Also, sorry, was there ever be other presidents in history that had a flag? Because even the word Trump flag is like, it wasn't the Obama flag or the Clinton flag.
Yeah.
When that neighbors had that Woodrow Wilson flag up, we knew we should have been concerned.
Man, I pay attention to this too. And this is an interesting thing too, is like, I wanted to take a picture of this house because when I walked by it, there's a Trump flag, big flagpole. And then there's a plumbing truck. And it was like a sewer thing. And I was like, well, call this motherfucker to drain the swamp, right?
Take the high road, Jamie. Take the high road.
Yeah, no, and I didn't. And that's the thing. So I didn't shoot the thing, but that's what level of consciousness I'm having around this thing too. I used to just like do shit and then I'd go, yeah, and not care about making fun of somebody. Mm-hmm. But now I just think about the energetic ramifications of it. Like, I'm doing this, and what am I going to elicit? Like a laugh for a minute at the people who...
Maybe Rob Dyrdek will see it, maybe he won't.
You know, just like I stop myself now from doing things that I used to just do...
impulsively.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, for sure.
All the time. And just to be humorous and to feel like it's, oh, come on, this isn't hurting anybody, right? And if you're going to fly a flag and have a sewer truck in front of your thing, you know that somebody's going to make this connection at some point.
Yeah, well, it's funny how that energy draws you in as just like, well, you're ridiculous, I'll be ridiculous too.
Right,
and
exactly.
it is really like a high road type situation. It's just like, why stoop to that level? And I get it, how it feels good. Back one more time on the Sister Cody note, but he put up a post, one of his art pieces that said, something around like, I don't have time to judge you because I'm living my life, or and that kind of, why would I have time to judge you when I'm too busy living my life? I commented, send him my way. I got the time.
I saw that actually. I saw you know how it grabs whoever you're following.
Right. Yeah, which is a joke, but there's truth, and within that, it's just like, here's the Darren version of the Sister Cody thing, where like, I wouldn't make a post that says, come over my house, I'm going to judge you, but to be like, to kind of take the piss out of it and just point out the my capacity for still kind of having a place where I judge people, because I have that in me.
Well, I do have a it's probably going to be really annoying to you because this keeps happening to me, but I have a Father John Misty level synchronicity that happened, a new one.
Yep.
So I went out to Joshua Tree, as we've been talking about, and not every trip that I go out there do I go visit my friend Cody, not Sister Cody, another Cody. Oh my God. But Cody we've talked about his clothing line. He's the shotgun blasted, hand dyed clothing maker, and some shirts he makes and other things he just buys that are thrift type stuff. And then he does all this work to him. So this was a time where I had a little bit of a surplus to work with to go visit him, and he lets me into his home, and we mask up, and it's like being in the Wow House, like what we're in right now for him, and it's a little room in his house. And so I went there and connected and found out his girlfriend is pregnant, and that's really cool. It was 4 months or so. They're having a kid in September, and catching up, looking through all this stuff, I find a few things. One of them that I'm wearing today. I get a few things, and we talk about like, oh, well, what are you doing for Easter? And this is on Saturday. And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to go to her family and, visit with them or whatever. And I'm like, oh great. Yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm going to visit my family. So we say our goodbyes. Next day, leaving early, driving back to my parents live in Pasadena, actually Altadena to be specific, but in that area.
Is it relevant?
Yeah. Well, it's people who are from our buddy Dean Morris. Like, Altadena is its own thing. We always used to make the clear differentiation.
Altadena.
Like, yep, exactly. Yep. Like,
all right. Well, Dean, if you're listening, let us know.
Like you would say, like you would claim Brooklyn rather than.
No, I get it. I do that with upstate New York and Western New York. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So, right. Exactly. So we left early. We've got everything packed the night before. It's very much as another trip, kind of thing. Like it's already starting
Pack
now.
I'm your John back. Misty bags.
Yeah, exactly. So we're driving out, and we have to pick up a fruit salad, and there's no on the way. So I'm like, oh, we'll go to this Whole Foods. It's just off the road in Pasadena. So we go there. We get the fruit salad, we get in the car. I'm feeling like we're driving up in my parents' neighborhood, and there's two houses that I grew up in. One, I have this tattoo of 1261 Woodbury Road.
I noticed. Yeah, it's funny because you have so many tattoos, and I've never asked you about any of them. But I feel like that'll be through the course of this show.
Oh, right.
The relevance will come like every now and then on one.
Oh, yeah.
So, like I did the one on the house on the side of my body and stuff. Yeah,
that's true. So 1261 is the house that my parents sold, and that's why my brother and I got. It's like most of our memories are from that house growing up together, and it's when I left to go live with my mom. I left that house. My brother stayed behind. There's a whole lot in that place, and then they had to sell it at some point, and there was their dream place. So, and now they live in this great place, and it's great, and they rent, and it's great. It's a fucking amazing house.
So the fruit salad.
Yeah, so the fruit salad. So we're driving, and I'm with the kids. I'm kind of feeling sentimental. It's Easter, and I'm like, hey, let's drive. I want to drive by the two houses that I grew up in, and I've taken them there before. But so we drive to 705 Belvedere in Pasadena, and I tell them stories of like how standing on the corner there. I was once at a young age just throwing rocks at cars that passed by.
Oh yeah,
just a busy street. I'm just standing on the corner.
That.
Yeah, just throwing rocks. And then this one lady pulled up and she's like, "Hey, do you live around here?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I live right there." And she goes, "Oh, great. Can I meet your parents?" I'm telling them this story, and I get, the woman went in and told my parents I was throwing rocks, and I got a spanking and a whole thing. But also another fun story is like my dad ran out of the house chasing burglars one night. The people who broke into our house, my dad sleeps naked, and he chased them.
God.
So I'm telling them all this story in front of the first house, and I'm like, now we're going to go to 1261.
Yeah.
Which is like a few blocks from where my parents live now. And a lot of memories are there. And so I even take a side road. I go up this road where it's kind of off the beaten path, but it's where
I know where this is headed.
Yeah. And so I'm going up the street, and we turn, and this is like on the corner of Michigan and Woodbury in Pasadena. Turn the corner, and there's nobody out, but there's two people on the street, and they're crossing the street, and I have to wait for them. And I'm turning in, and they go, Lacey goes, is that Cody? And I was like, what? No. And I go, no, my mind would not allow it, because I just like, no, there's no, that's not him. That's a guy that looks like him. And they go, no. And Tiger and Sia in the back, they go, no, that's Cody. I pull over. Look on the fucking street where I grew up are the only two people that I was with in Joshua Tree. Like, they're the only two people on the street.
God, that's amazing.
Like, how does this fucking happen?
Oh, wow.
And
sorry, are your denim jeans two different types of denim?
that's his pants, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're like khakis basically, but he's done two different. See, I was dressed up like psilocybin. See, I was a mushroom. See, the top is like a cap, and then but I mean,
that's great. Yeah.
And then we have this conversation. I'm wearing his fucking clothes that he designed, and we're having this conversation on the street that I grew up in, 100 miles away from where we last hung out the day before.
Yep.
And I just found out that his girlfriend, she grew up a few streets away, and she was just walking him through her old neighborhood. That's why they were there.
Yeah, and her dad was the one who burglarized your house. What?
But
yeah, that's funny. But you know what's funny, and that's incredible, and I'm not going to deny it. It's amazing, and you tell it with such excitement. But remember the story I shared with you where I ran into somebody at Rainbow and then saw them walking, and we were walking simultaneously down Montgomery, and it turns out that like there was a connection between that, and she was actually looking at our apartment thinking,
right.
Why did I not share that story?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I could never tell it with like, and then
you should do it right now. Well, isn't she from the desert?
No, she lives up in Ridgemont
or something?
Yeah, something like that. Ridgemont or something. Yeah. It's just like
or Crestview or Crestline.
That's it.
Yeah, but it's a great story because you also
because what?
Because you paused.
Yeah.
Because you were like, wait, no, just hang out and actually talk to us.
Oh, right.
Remember? Sure. It's you. Actually, you need to tell a story because it's you trusting your intuition.
Well, I'm going to tell it in a cynical way.
Okay. Great.
I was at Rainbow, where all magic happens.
Yep.
Rainbow Bridge.
I was there this morning.
And there was a woman and her child was wearing this dope ass, like mustard yellow, same color as this couch, the same color as that lamp there. Jumpsuit. And her kid was probably around Dailu's age, like 3 or 4. And she was ordering some food, and I passed her, and I was like, oh, it's not an opportune time to talk to her. And then, but I was just like, stay, like, I really want to find out where that jumpsuit came from. So stay. And so I kind of just awkwardly stood there in the peripheral. And then she finally was done. And I said, hey, you know, I would love to know where you got the jumpsuit. She's like, oh, I got it from here, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And then we left. And then the whole day went by, hours went by. I picked up Delu from school, and Delu and I got back to the apartment, and we're walking down the side road that the side of the apartment's on. And I look across the street, and that woman and her child are there across the street in line with us. And we're walking the exact same pace, same speed down the street. And she gets to the corner, and I go, hey, and you know, obviously like recognize, because she comes across the street, and she's like, oh, hey. And I go, it's good to see you again. And she's like, she's like, we're trying to move here. And do you know about the apartment here? And she's pointing to the place that Jamie and I live at. And there's 3 units there. And she's like, is there an office here? And I said, no, and she's like, oh, I saw an ad on Craigslist. And I was like, no, there's a place that's open, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh yeah, we're trying to move here. And then, and she's like, my son and I, and as she's talking, I'm like, wait a second. Oh, she said, I go, this is Delu, I'm Darren. She's like, hi, I'm Evie, and this is Noah. And I go, Evie and Noah. I go, are you Evie and Noah? She just told me that. And she's like, yeah. I put it together. She was friends with Viana, who we're going to just pause for a second and address. Yeah. Okay. Viana is my partner. Yeah. We are not together anymore, but Viana is my partner because we have a child together, and we will always have a child together, and we will always be partners within that. I've referenced Viana, the name Viana, and we since sat down and recorded a 2-hour podcast on Viana's podcast, which is called Creatively Relating. And the episode that we did together will be coming out this week. So maybe around the time you hear this, and so you'll be able to get our whole story. It's not anything I didn't want to talk about, but I certainly wanted to give it a chance for us to get on the same page with everything. And there's a lot that can come out of it and will come out of it, but just for continuity's sake, Viana is my partner. Yeah. And so Viana knew Evie and Noah, and then I realized that I had known Evie and Noah. They were kickstarting something a while ago, and I put up in my story, and it just like all flooded in of just like, wait, I know this person. And then when we were at Rainbow, she goes, oh, it's really great meeting you. And even though we hadn't exchanged, I just talked about the jumpsuit, and she goes, it's great meeting you. And I go, okay, like, what is that? What do you mean it was great meeting you? We didn't even exchange names. And so, and then when we got to there, she's like, yeah, I didn't know. She's like, I didn't want to say anything because, you know, and I go, no, it's like, so it's weird. But she knows your art. She follows. Yeah, she's bought stuff from me, and she, you know, she's well aware of who I am. And so it just was like, she's like, I always feel weird. And I'm like, I feel weird when people recognize me and don't say anything. Not that you have to come up and be like, your art's great, but if you see me and you recognize me, say hello. Like, I want to know that you know who I am and we can talk and stuff. So it just was like the confluence of it all. And that's, I guess, where it becomes like, holy shit, had I made another turn, had we stopped at the store, had we done X, Y, and Z, it wouldn't have happened. And so, and it was just beautiful. And then I just, you know, I just felt so much like, just joy and happiness for them. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to totally hold you in and something I never say, I'm going to hold you in my heart and my mind. Beautiful. You know what you say when you're, you know, elevated to the degree that I am.
You meant it though.
I did, yeah, because I just was like, God, knowing, you know, being separated and taking on a level of childcare on your own is fucking hard. And so just having a huge amount of compassion and understanding of she's a single mother and just knowing how hard it is and wanting her to like come here and be in the valley, and the safety, the cradle of where we live and stuff. So yeah, it was just an amazing experience. And I think,
well, no, the part that I loved is that when you were at Rainbow Bridge and you saw it, and there was a part of you was like, move on. Yeah. But then there was this other part where you're like, no, actually hang out and ask about the jumpsuit. That thing was you were touching into the connection that you didn't even know existed. By my estimation, that's what that is. Yeah. It's trusting your intuition. There's something here. Mm-hmm. And it goes without saying, or maybe it, I don't know.
Goes with saying.
It goes with saying. Yeah. But you know, I imagine that meeting across the street from where we live was impactful. That actually visiting Ojai, and it sounds like she's bought some of your art before, and you have this sort of, she's an appreciator of your art. So to be in the store at the same time with somebody who she appreciates, who she probably thinks about when she comes to Ojai as being, because I mean, you know, your stuff was on the Ohio, what is it? The Ohio Quarterly lately. You are like, you're who I thought of.
I'm
when I moved here.
incredibly famous in this film.
No, but you've made a name for yourself, and rightfully so. And the way I talk about you is that you grew this thing from the ground up. You know, you're working in grocery stores when you got here, and just like the rest of us, you know, trying to get by, and you believed in your art, and you grew something in a very short amount of time that's now affecting people all around the world. And I think
I got to break that up a little bit there.
Yeah. But I'm sure it was impactful. And you touched
it's hard for
something.
me. It's hard for me to be like, that must have been an impactful moment for you.
But that's
aside, why you're here.
Right. Yeah. And that, even that part aside, the fact that later on in the day, that because of that encounter, you went outside and you knew to move towards this person more. And then there was something established that I imagine was a story for her going back to where she lives.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, and then this great thing happened. I was looking at this place. Darren actually lives there.
Yeah. I mean, that's fucking wild. Like, that's wild to be like the one place you went and looked at. I live in it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I shared that one.
Yeah. Me too.
That got pulled out of me.
Me too. Yeah. Well, this is a good one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we call it.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I said it in jest, but we take it seriously, and we're so fucking appreciative for everybody who does contribute to the show. This week, hopefully we're going to get out, which it's funny to talk about this stuff, because if you're listening to this 5 years from now, it's not really relevant, but we are going to be starting to send out the Patreon rewards that we have. We got stickers and magnets, and I got tote bags, should be probably arriving this week. So we'll get all those out to everybody. If you want to contribute, it's patreon.com/mysticalcynical. It's just really like the best, easiest way to keep us doing this and show the support. And it just means the fucking world to us. To like the fact that you'd give us money, you give us your money, like the money that you have, you give it to us. Yep. It's like, it's extraordinary for sure.
It is. And before we go, I heard, I sent the podcast where we talked about Devendra. I sent him a text a while ago. Let's see, when the fuck was that? I guess.
Is it Devendra Banhart?
Yeah, it's Banhart. Yep.
And you know what's crazy is I can recall the moment I found out about him. I worked at Whole Foods in Berkeley, and it was when magazines were still a thing, like music magazines. And this dude, I don't know if I was flipping through it or if he was flipping through it, but there was a little tiny write-up about Devendra in there. And I was like, who's that? And this dude was like, oh, he's in that like freak folk, which he basically like birthed the genre.
He did, yeah.
And so I just remember, and I don't even think I really even listened to him till years after that, but just being like, how, these little times where you go, how the fuck is that still in the limited space in your mind? How is that memory still, obviously it was, because I needed to remember it because for this moment.
Freak folk also, right, exactly. Yeah. Maybe that is what that was. But hearing the words freak folk for the first time and seeing a name like Devendra is actually, I imagine it's kind of a fresh experience.
Oh, for sure. Because it's not two words you've put together.
Right, right. Well, I texted him and I told him about the podcast.
You want to give his number out to everybody?
And I sent the episode that we talked about him, which is episode 16, signing the boob. And I told him about your art, and I didn't know if he knew about it or what. And he texted me back like a couple days later and said something like, he's really excited to hear this. Apologize for the delayed reply, as I've been deep in finishing the final touches on an album, much, which I can't wait for, because he's the only, I'm really grateful to know someone who I appreciate their art so much. Consistently, his records are just, I can listen to them over and over and over again.
Yeah,
I'm
timeless.
a fan.
They're really, really beautiful.
He's a fucking important artist. So, but then yesterday he texted and he said, dude, and it'd been a number of days in between. I just thought it's great that it's on his radar. Maybe he'll listen. Dude, this episode is most excellent. Your flow with Darren is so top notch. He said, just fascinating. The story of the gun and the TV and the kids alone at home. Amazing. The things we do when we're in it. Absolutely beautiful breakdown of karma. Anyway, needless to say, I'm a fan of the show. Keep up the good work. Deep, deep bow and big hug to your old, from your old pal Doobie Badfart. And then, I took a liberty and I was like, oh man, that'd be amazing if you could put that into a review. And
I love that you did that, because I was totally joking. I was like, have him write a review.
Put in a review, and I was like, you know what? I'll do that.
Yeah, that's awesome,
I'm that
man.
motherfucker. I'll do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he said, my bro, I've just left my first and most likely only review ever. So look out for that. And I guess it didn't go up. And so he's going to,
there's some latency. There's some latency latency on that, I think.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, that shit is also, you don't like understanding algorithms or how things work. It's just like, I don't, because there's reviews that I found that aren't on Apple. Like that, I don't really know how the fuck it works, but
he said he was willing to do it
incredible that he did it. And then also that he's going to do it again.
Yeah. He said, let me know. I'll do it again. He's like, if my name, it was like, he said something like, it didn't ask for my name.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Maybe it's just like your Apple ID.
Maybe. Because if people have some like fucked up name, like where you're like, oh, you made up, you use like, it's like when we first got AOL and we had to make up screen names and like you got tried to get real clever with it and shit.
Yeah.
Like it's not like if I wrote it, it wouldn't be like Darren McGee. Like it would be Doobie Badfart.
So
I'm just realizing there's one more Devendra connection that happened that maybe we can pull some mysticism out of. But within the time that we did that episode 16 to now, somewhere in between that, and I don't think we have enough time to get into this now, but NFTs, you're familiar?
Oh, right,
Do you know?
Yeah.
I discussed it a little bit on my Instagram. So to give you for anyone who doesn't know what an NFT is, the broadest stroke thing, basically digital artists who produce things digitally that would only like a video or a motion graphic or something that would essentially, for all intents and purposes, only exist on a computer where you'd view it. Now there's these tokens that are being sold where you can essentially sell kind of ownership to these non-tangible items. And it's cause for controversy based on the power consumption of what it takes to mine. I'm going to start saying these things. It's going to make my own mind melt, but to mine the currency that it takes to buy these things, it's physical power that needs to be produced. It's a whole fucking weird world. Wow. But Devendra created a couple of NFTs and he caught some shit for it. And I didn't know about this, but when I put up my NFT that's available at foundation.app/realfunwow, if anybody has any interest in buying it, these NFTs are being sold for tens of thousands to upwards. Someone sold one for $63 million.
Whoa.
So, if anybody's got a couple extra bucks around. Yeah. So Devendra made a couple and someone wrote to me and was like, hey, you're going to probably catch some shit for this. Devendra just made some and he caught some shit. And so I looked up his and he's made little like motion graphic pieces out of art that he's done. I think it's like acrylic paintings. And then he's just had somebody kind of give it a little bit of like motion. And then he's applied his just little crooning to it. And there it is. That's an NFT. It's a little thing that you'd see on the computer, but then you can buy like, I own this. Like I could share it with you. It can be burned. It could be all these things. But at the end of the day, I have a certificate that says I own this NFT from Devendra Badfart. And that's where the value is within that token.
Gotcha.
And so just somebody's mentioning his name and being like, I have fucking 1 degree of separation from that dude.
Right. Yeah. No shit. Yeah. That's fucking crazy.
So it just basically boils everything down to the fact that we're all just one person. I think.
Two directions, you have 1 degree of separation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
That's this really weird and the NFT thing is so strange to me and makes me feel the only way that I can even slightly comprehend it is when I think about when I've smoked DMT. And so my NFT is audio of the first time I smoked DMT. And I made like a little shitty video animation for it. And so I was like, this just feels fitting to put up an NFT of the first time I smoked DMT because this shit is just like as weird as that.
NFT, DMT, DTM.
That's right. Yeah, man. Well, it's great to get back in the saddle again with you. Is. And looking forward to tonight. Again, not going to be relevant if you're listening to this in 5 years, but we're doing a mystical, cynical photo shoot tonight.
That's right.
We're going to crush it.
We are.
It's going to be great. So look forward to some handsome photos of Jamie and I.
And the new, and taken by a fan of the show and a friend of the show, Jess Meyer.
Jess Purple.
I
don't know if I think that's her maiden name. Oh, and it's incredible. And they have a daughter named Peach.
Oh my
Peach
God.
Purple.
That's amazing.
We are Matt and Jess on Instagram. We are Matt and Jess. They're incredible photographers and we're so grateful to have them as friends, listeners, and fellow artists in the Valley.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I just graduated a few people from long-term care. I've been working with a few people for a long time, like 8 months for one of them. And A couple of spots just opened up in my roster. So if
you're listening to this in 5 years, that might not be true.
Exactly. But as of the first week of April or 2021 on Tuesday at the moment. Yeah. But even if this is 5 years down the road, or
reach out. Yeah.
Reach out to,
you won't get a hold of us because we'll be so goddamn popular that we won't even be reachable. But
you could go to Love is the Author, and in my bio, there's a link to contact my manager and partner, Lacey Dillmore. She's Unconventional Gardener at Unconventional Gardener, and that's how to book a consultation with me for psychospiritual sessions potentially. So just putting that out there.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, won't last long. It's
by now
pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you all so much, and I hope you're all having a great week, month, year, life.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. I love you.
I love you.